Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Gary. Just think of the future generations that are being programmed in the womb by 5G. Let's put it that way. The new people that are going to be born into this planet are not going to have a chance to from the beginning.
No.
Just think of a pregnant mother sitting on the couch with a cell phone resting on her 6-month tummy, with the cell phone just resting. I can see a mother pregnant sitting on the couch with her cell phone, her 5G cell phone, just sitting on her belly while she's watching TV, and those frequencies just going right into her womb.
Well,
and that baby, just think of the defects that are going to come out of that.
Well, let's go back farther. How about the eggs in the woman and the guy's sperm?
Bingo.
Geez, we're about to go through some type of I can't imagine what kind of species we're going to turn into from this. That's kind of interesting to think about. Perhaps if a frequency, if they can inject their own, I guess, genetic manipulation code into the RFR, then they might even be able to program what the future generations become in their eggs, sperm, and then in the womb. Might control everything.
Well, you know what is also scary? In the United States, the population is starting to drop. In a lot of countries, it's starting to drop. The men, it's a lot more men being sterile, where they can't get a woman pregnant. And that has been going on the last few years, too. I don't know what would cause that. Is it our food we eat, or is it all this RF emissions that's being dumped on us all the way? Some people claim that this, like Michael mentioned about vivid dreams, there's other people that claim that because of the RF, they get migraines, they get headaches, they're sick. And I think these RF frequency, low emitting power devices can affect certain people. How about people with pacemakers and other electronics in them? I mean, this is really scary what technology is going. But what really scares me, honestly, right? I'm in my bedroom with my wife, and I'm talking in my room private stuff, not sexual, maybe. Well, maybe, I don't know. But I could be talking about my job, my boss. Maybe I work for a government agency and I'm talking about stuff I shouldn't be talking about. Am I going to be monitored? Am I going to be put in a FEMA camp down the road for that? I mean, what privacy are we setting ourselves up? Why is this stuff being installed in our TVs, in our appliances, and on our laptops and our computers where they can kind of listen and watch into us? Why? Why is that going on? Michael, you're an attorney. Why is this? What gives them the permission to do this shit?
Yeah, well, it doesn't. It's not constitutional. Let's put it that way. But I can see, like what Ronald was talking about, is that they don't necessarily need to have you commit a crime to control you and put you in jail. What if you end up coming up on an algorithm profile that they just don't like?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's certain ways that they can affect your health, maybe through long distance. They can affect your family's health. They can do a lot of things without even charging you or putting you in jail that is going to mess you up. And that's going to be the weird thing. It's the control that they can exert over you. With it's like extrajudicial control. That's the scary part.
Blackmail. But I will say this. I don't know if I just heard it all from Michael, but I also heard it from ex-CIA agent I had on my show months ago. And I think I heard it from you, Michael. Tell me if Ronald, if I'm wrong. But even like the government can sit out in front of your house in their van, car, or whatever, signal into you and cause you to drop dead from a heart attack.
Yeah, direct energy weapons. And I'm sure that their capabilities are increasing exponentially now, especially with quantum computing and artificial intelligence. And I imagine they don't even have to sit out in front of your house anymore. It could probably be, every point in space is a coordinate. So quantum computers can tap into any coordinate, and they, I guess, surveil anything that they wish. Capture. There's a intelligence in the intelligence community where, in the intelligence community, there are different kinds of intelligence and gathering of intelligence. And one of those is MASINT. MASINT stands for measurements and signatures. Everything puts out a measurable signature and tells what it is. So when I was working at Central Command, I worked in the Signals Intelligence Overhead Collection Management Office, and that was around 1998 to 2001 when I was there. So even back in 98, the guy down the hall from me, a good friend of mine, he was the MASINT chief. And measurements and signatures intelligence has been, being collected for a long time now. So, and the layman out there listening to this show or walking the street has no idea the kind of information that's being gathered continuously against all of us by Northern Command. I don't think people understand what Northern Command is. Northern Command's area of responsibility is Canada, the United States, Mexico. They're headquartered in Colorado, and their job is to conduct intelligence operations in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. We are under military occupation by the Department of Defense of the U.S. of A. Corporation, and they are actively conducting intelligence gathering against us. And I know this firsthand because I had to turn over my Mexico reporting when I was at Southern Command to Northern Command in 2002, 2003, when they stood up as an organization, and we became their area of responsibility. So it's going on for a long time now, and the technology is getting better and better, and I have no idea now how far it's gone, because most of the technology we use off the shelf is 50 years behind the technology that's being developed behind the scenes in the black world. So we're in a tough situation, and I really wish that the listening audience would start thinking about solutions and start emailing Gary and tell him, well, I have an idea. I mean, you, me, Michael, we need to discuss what are the solutions. I mean, we can talk about these problems all day long, and it's irritating, and it's sad and frustrating. But we got to somehow come up with something we can do. I am not in the position or the mood anymore to just sit around and take this. I'm not. That's the whole reason I'm doing these interviews and writing books and making movies and going and speaking at conferences, because the message has to get out there that people not only need to understand the problem, but also start developing solutions, actionable solutions that we can gather around and start performing and win our freedom back. Otherwise, there's a short window right now where once it closes, we are done for, and we won't be able to protect ourselves.
Well, who's given the permission for all these FEMA camps to be built? And if they're not even being used, the money to maintain them, what is going on? Why would we need FEMA camps? Why would we need all these, basically a prison all over the country? And they've been doing this for years. Now, is this something they've been planning back 20 years ago, that eventually they're going to basically take citizens that maybe don't agree with maybe what is being said, what's going on with the government, or any views of such, and put them away? Is that what's going to happen?
No, this didn't start 20 years ago. This started back in the 1780s when Adam Weishaupt created the Bavarian Illuminati, and it spread all over the world. And then in the 1880s when Albert Pike laid out the formula and the strategy for the 3 world war scenario that's going to lead to the Luciferian doctrine. And they've been systematically getting everything in their long-term agenda going. So, no, this didn't start 20 years ago.
No,
this is a long-term agenda.
Yeah, but it's a long agenda. But now we have these FEMA camps all over the country. Why?
Yep.
And you know what? It's seriously, I remember my friend, I actually had a talk with him. He would, certain things would be said on his radio show, and then all of a sudden, the next day, he would get a phone call, okay, from a government agency, okay, or they would come knocking on his door and start asking him questions about why he was talking about what he was talking about on his radio show, or, if he knew anything what the guest was saying. And he would say, well, I have no idea, who the guest is. I don't keep track of their phone numbers. But, it's really, really scary. And this is going back 15 years ago, 10 years ago. So, I mean, I am really worried. And then you have, he was telling me about mailboxes with, certain little, I guess, colors and certain things on certain people's mailboxes. And that is basically if something happens and you have one of those on your on your curb or your mailbox, you don't want to be around there. Some shit hits the fan.
Yeah. Michael, you can tell me this. Here's a tactic, and Gary, you brought this up, is they're going to come knocking at your door and asking questions. And I used this tactic the other day, when, a couple months ago when I told you that story about getting pulled over by the cop. But everything is honor, dishonor, acceptance, offer, and conditional acceptance. Michael, you know this from a legal standpoint. And so a guy knocks on, if next person, a so-called authority figure, comes and asks me questions and starts asking me a question, I just hold out my hand and say, I answer questions for $500 per question, and just stand there and wait for payment. At that point, they have to either accept my conditional acceptance to their offer of the question, or they have to walk away.
Well, how about you're forgetting one thing, though? I'm talking about the near future. FEMA camps.
Yeah, I'm talking about it, too. The recent...
If you don't say or give them the answer, they just might, like Nazi Germany, you disappear. I don't know. I want
right.
Okay, you're an attorney, Michael. And Ronald, he was with the D.O.D. Why do we have all these FEMA camps? I want to know that right now. What are they there for?
There's a civil war brewing, and they're getting ready to round everybody up. And it's weird. It's a catch-22 because I want a civil war. We need to just take down our government, or corporations posing as governments. But if we do have this civil war, can we win it? Because they're waiting for this to happen. I think it's predicted. I think they know this is going to happen. They know where we're headed. They know people like me and Gary, you're setting up this venue for us to do this, is to have a call to action for people to rebel. Should we rebel? Yes. Is it going to work out for the better for us? I don't know. I don't think so. It depends on how we do this. But
no,
I think that they know this is coming.
It doesn't work. Remember back when Germany went through Warsaw? All the Jews, right, were locked into part of the city, right? They could have rebelled because there was such few guards and military, guarding them. If they would have all rebelled, they could have crashed and got away. No, people are funny. Yep. People are like cattle. What will happen? Shit will go down, and everybody will be standing there in like a maze. They knew eventually someday something was going to go down. Now, you're talking about they built all these for, in case something happens, okay? But again, they've been sitting dormant for 20, 30 years, and they still are building them. Now, again, why would they, go buy all these huge amount of coffins, which is crazy, unless they plan to do something with people down the road? I don't know. It's scary. And then our situation right now, our president, which I was for Trump, and I'm neutral right now. But I'll say this, if he says right there, if they impeach me, there'll be a civil war. Of course, you know what? Nixon said the same thing all the way to the day he resigned. He said the American public will rebel if I'm impeached. Well, guess what? He resigned and nobody gave a shit.
Right. Nobody did. Because you know why? They have no leadership. The people really don't have a leader for the people. Trump is a leader for the citizens. And people is also a slave term. There's no leader for the living souls of this world. The living souls don't fall under the jurisdiction of the state. But who falls under the jurisdiction of the state? Citizens, persons, individuals, residents, domiciled, and taxpayers. Trump is the leader of those individuals, those citizens, persons, individuals, domiciles, residents, and taxpayers. Living souls don't have a leader. I think we are the leaders. We're the ones speaking out there to the crowd of the living souls that want to know the truth. People who tune into this type of a show about conspiracies and paranormal stuff, they're the ones who are really interested in learning the truth, right? I mean, you listeners out there, you want to know the truth. You want to know the solution.
You're wrong. They like listening to controversial. They like listening to this type of thing. Okay? The whole issue is people aren't going to do anything. They haven't yet. They won't. Okay? And, if I don't know if our president will be impeached or if he'll resigned or if he'll make an agreement in February with the special counsel to, leave office if he's not charged with something. I don't know. But, it tells me that not just Trump or Hillary, the whole political system is